Fredrik, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Hey, thank you. Happy to be here.
Creativity is a topic close to your heart. You've studied creativity across 75 countries. What patterns have you noticed showing up everywhere?
The more you study creativity, or the wider you study creativity, the more you realize it's hard to pin it down to just being one thing. So actually, it's a bit of a boring philosophical answer, but creativity is what makes us human. That's the common denominator. That's where you have to go. And it doesn't matter which country you go to, which culture, which profession. Every human being loves the idea of being creative. So it's a universal thing. It's like happiness or love. It's one of those.
It is, yeah. What do you say when someone says, I'm not creative?
I said, great, you're humble. My father was a musician. But I'm not very musical at all. So I grew up thinking I was not creative because I couldn't play an instrument very well. But then that's where I kind of got me into creativity, because I realized, actually, although I think all the way up into university, I realized, okay, fine, I'm not a musician, but I can be creative in other ways. I'm an author, I'm a writer. So that's where my creativity can be expressed. So like if you compare a painter with a dancer, with an entrepreneur, with a scientist, their creativity is totally different, but they're all creative.
And then, of course, there's creativity expressed in other ways. You can be an accountant who is creative with bookkeeping. You can be a lawyer who's creative in court cases. And they may not class themselves as creative like a dancer or a writer, but what they're doing requires creation.
Definitely. So accountants, they all say yes. I've done a lot of speeches for accountants, and I ask them, do you think you are creative? Do you think creativity is important in your job? And they all say yes. And then in some bankers and accountants usually score lower. IT professionals and advertising people usually score higher on the creative confidence aspect of it. But that doesn't mean they are more creative. It only means they're more confident.
Okay, so confidence is an element of creativity. I've never thought of that before. It's that courage.
Actually, no, wait. We can't stop there. We have to go all the way. Sorry to interrupt you, but it's like this. To be creative, you have to have confidence. Okay, think about it like this. Everyone goes to the left and you are going to go to the right. You won't do that if you're just a follower, right? So you need to be confident and say, I don't care if everyone is going this direction, I'm going to go that direction. But truly creative people are always doubting that what they do is this right, or is there a better way? So creative people, they do, like, everyone goes this way, well, I'm going to go this way, and they go, wait a minute, maybe this is actually wrong. Maybe I should go that way or this way or that way or this way. So the sweet spot is to be confidently doubting or doubtfully confident. That's the sweet spot. If you're too confident, you might succeed, but you might also fail miserably. So confidently doubting, you should aim for that spot.
That's an interesting spot. That's how I feel most of my life, is confidently doubting and exploring way too many doors. And it's I suppose some have called it a risk, but it's also a strength, because it enables you to see opportunities where others don't, connect dots in interesting ways.
But that is where the sweet spot comes in. To be confident that what you know, I think I can make this happen. I think I'm on the right path. Because if you're doubting too much, then you're never going to go anywhere. This is the wrong way. This is the wrong way. This is wrong. You're just going to stay where you are. So you need to be. The confidence is equally important. It's the sweet spot. Too much doubt, you don't go anywhere. Too much confident, you might go in the wrong direction. Doubt and confidence, sweet spot, you try different avenues and you change your mind when you realize you need to change your mind or whatever. Like, you're flexible, agile, innovative.
And experiments. I mean, I like thinking of life as a series of experiments. Some don't work, and that's okay. You learn from them. But some of them certainly can turn into a book or a podcast or a business idea. And that also takes the pressure off. You don't have to have a finished product for everything that you do.
Yes, I agree with you. I look at life as an opportunity. I think opportunity is the most beautiful word in the English language. And people, so do you know the etymology of the word opportunity?
No, I'd love to know.
It's beautiful. It's the most beautiful word. So opportunity is a word for a wind. You have a typhoon, you have a hurricane, you have a storm, you have a breeze, different words for different winds. Opportunity was a specific kind of wind during the Roman times, where they were out on the ship, they were in the doldrums, there was no wind, they were starving to death, they were going to die, and then suddenly here came opportunity. It literally means the wind that takes you home. to your harbor. The right wind that takes you home. Isn't it
so
beautiful?
good.
I know.
Yeah.
Which also gives you the understanding of what opportunity really means. Because, first of all, you need to understand that this is that kind of a wind. You need to understand that opportunity is not. Someone needs to say, wait, this is opportunity. This is the right wind. It will take us home to our families. But then second, you need to act, right? You need to take everyone, hey, everyone, wake up. We need to, if we don't catch this wind, the opportunity is gone, right? So these two things is what the story tells us about what opportunities are. And I build my life on the ability to identify opportunities and taking opportunities.
And do you think timing is an important component here? Because I've had opportunities and I didn't jump onto them, and then call it inspiration or the momentum or the direction changed and the opportunity was no longer there. You kind of need to be willing to jump in.
Exactly. So I do the analogy for my life. I am the anti-hustler. I do not hustle, right? Because to me, hustle is like, oh, you have to grind every day. You have to walk up the stairs. Don't rest. Just keep on walking up the stairs, right? And you will reach the top of the skyscraper. I'm the opposite. I just sit at the lobby and I just wait. And then suddenly the elevators open up. And then I know I have 3 seconds. I need to grasp that opportunity. And I jump into the elevator. I press the button. I go as high as I can. And then I jump out. And I wait for the next elevator. So life, if you don't grasp that 5 seconds opportunity, then it's gone, right? Then you're just going to sit in the lobby and you're going to lose the race. So it's so important to identify, wait, this is an opportunity. I'm going to drop everything and I'm just going to go in and work on this, whatever the opportunity is, right?
What prompted you to go and explore creativity around the world? 75 countries, that's a lot of places to visit. What did you learn? And are there differences in how different cultures or societies nurture creativity?
That was, I think, 3 questions. I'll do them one by one. What got me into creativity? I used to study the internet. I used to write books about the internet. And I realized after around the year 2000, I realized I never really liked the internet. I liked the fact that it was new. So I thought, okay, let's just study anything new, not just new internet, just new anything. So I broadened my perspective. In 2005, I moved from Sweden to China. In 2008, I moved to Singapore. And when I moved to Singapore, it's the most global place it's the capital of the world. It's like the most global place you can live in because it's a city that is not surrounded by a country. It's just a city in the world. It's a very unique feeling. And that's where I got the global mindset. And I said, I need to study creativity all around the world, not just in the normal usual suspects like Silicon Valley or London. I need to go anywhere. And that's when I decided to go to like Mongolia or North Korea or Sri Lanka or Namibia. I interview people everywhere around the world. So not only have I been to 75 countries, I go to between 15 and 35 countries every year because I want to understand creativity from every aspect.
That's what a journey. And what are some examples of creativity that stick with you? Share some adventures with us because I'm sure you've got many.
Yeah. Okay. If there are a lot. So is there any angle you want? Is like the creative process, the mindset? Like what is there any aspects I can pick a suitable example?
Let's go creative process.
All right. I'll give you the one. I don't know if this is the best one. I mean, the one that comes to mind first of all. I interviewed a student at the oldest beer brewery in the world. It's in Germany, and they've been studying beer brewery for like 500 plus years at that brewery. It's an amazing place. Anyway, I met this student, and he studied. There's a two-year course, and he told me that the people who apply to this school are 2 kinds. First kind, people who love drinking beer. They just love beer, and the other part, people who just love the process of making beer. Right? Those are the 2. And he said after 1 year, half of the class have quit. Guess which class quit?
Those who just like drinking beer.
Correct. Because suddenly there's a class on the chemistry of fertilization or whatever, and they are just bored to death, and they say, and they just quit. But the people who love the process, they are fascinated, right? They don't even care. I mean, they will drink the beer at the end, but they are on to the next one right when they're done with the first one. So when you realize the lesson here is that it's the if you want to be really, really creative in some area, you should pick the area where you love the process. So I'm a speaker, right, and an author, but I'm an introvert, an extreme introvert. I live on an island, for God's sake. I don't want neighbors. But so what do I do on a stage? I don't even like being on stage, but I like the message of creativity. So I will go up on that stage even though I don't want to be there, because I want that message to be spread, right? But I don't love the act of speaking, but I love the act of creating a rhetorically strong speech. And I can cry if I will watch stand-up or other speeches as a hobby, right? And I will cry if I see a good line. So the process of writing a speech is what I love, not delivering it. See the difference?
And so creativity, an important part of it is falling in love with the process, not necessarily the outcome.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, you will love the outcome is the end result. Do you know the etymology? This is going to be an etymology podcast. Do you know the etymology of the word creativity?
No.
So I used to think it was connected to God, like creator, which it is. Mm-hmm. But if you go even deeper, it actually means to give birth. That's the origin. And the reason we call God the creator is because he gives birth to everything. God gives birth to the world. So, but creativity means to give birth. So the end result is magical. Like, no, you cannot, the love of your children beats any love, right? But the second strongest love is the love for our very best ideas that we ever have in our lives, right? And we love our ideas, but the process is maternity, is giving life. The process of giving birth is what creativity is. And then the end result is the idea that comes out.
How do you think AI fits into this? Do you think that using AI is a form of creativity, or as many people are just calling it AI slop? What are your thoughts?
Well, there's a lot of human slop too, to be honest.
That's so true. It's such a good point. AI learned from us.
Actually, I'm in the pro AI camp for many reasons. But okay, I don't know where to start. We could do a whole podcast on this. But first of all, people say that AI makes us more stupid. That is like saying when the calculator came, or for God's sake, when the book came, I'm sure people said, no, now we're going to become stupid. We're not going to use our memory anymore. Or when the map came, now you're not going to memorize everywhere you go. You can just look on the map. Or the calculator. Now you can't do 56 times 57 in your head anymore. Yeah, true. We are becoming more stupid in that way. But if we use the calculator to do 2 + 2 equals, then we became stupid. But if we use the calculator to do math we never could do without the calculator, then we became smarter. And right now we're figuring out how to use this new super advanced calculator. But of course it's going to make us smarter, just like the calculator did and just like the book did. And so I'm very optimistic. But more importantly, creativity is AI is an amazing creativity tool. It is, I would argue, we have invented a new way to be creative. Can I elaborate?
Please.
Okay. How do you have an idea? What are the different ways of having an idea? Well, number one, the subconscious. A dream, a meditation, the state between half awake, or something just comes to you. Like Harry Potter just came to J.K. Rowling. Like she didn't invent it, it just came to her from the subconscious mind. Then we have the conscious mind, which is like, what am I going to do for dinner? Let's do pancakes, right? That is not the subconscious talking to you. It's your conscious mind solving a problem. 3, inspiration, like Velcro. He saw something in nature, something got stuck to his legs, and he said, wait, what's this? And then he got inspiration from that and invented Velcro. Or you read a book or you hear a song or inspiration. 4, you meet another person and you brainstorm with that person. You and I, we are brainstorming ideas, right? That's different than me just thinking in my head. Suddenly, I'm exchanging ideas with a different person. And then 5th, the pen. 5,000 years ago, we invented the pen, and now you can brainstorm with yourself outside your own body. You have an idea in your head, you draw it, you look at it, and you get feedback back. It's outside of your brain, but with yourself. Those are the 5 ways to have ideas. Now we have a 6th one. If you upload all the things you've written, all the things you've said, record everything that you do, and then go to 11 Labs and upload your own voice, you can now brainstorm with yourself and have yourself reply to you, and you can hear yourself brainstorm with yourself. It's a totally new way of being creative, and it's amazing.
I agree. I think that there is so much opportunity. I'm an AI optimist, and Of course, you can use it in the most mundane way. Just write me an email without any context or without any stylistic prompting or anything like that. But as you said, if you really train it, it's a mirror in many ways. You can train it to work almost as a mirror, and that extended cognition to weave together ideas. I mean, I find it, as a creative person, I can just go for a walk, use AI to transcribe thoughts into a note-taking app, get back, dump it into Claude or OpenAI or ChatGPT, and watch it synthesize the thoughts and tidy them up. I mean, that is incredible. That would have cost me a lot of money with an editor and some lady in the Philippines who used to transcribe my thoughts. It's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And or if you have an idea for, like, for example, I had this idea that they need to rebuild the central bus stop here where I live. And I was like, but I can't visualize it. Now I just, boom, in 2 seconds it's visualized. I can show everyone what I meant without finding an illustrator. So it also helps us get ideas out, but it is so many ways. You can ask it as a sounding board. You know, read this text and get feedback as Elon Musk, as Picasso, as Jesus. And suddenly you get all this feedback from a million, like 15 different feedback loops. And more importantly, AI can be creative in itself. People say, I very often get introduced, oh, now we're going to talk about creativity, the one thing AI cannot do. Bullshit. AI can be creative because creativity is to take things and combine them in unexpected ways. And then AI can look at something and combine it in a million different ways and also now evaluate which one would actually work best. So AI, it's in so many aspects, AI and creativity is amazing. But, and this is important, because it's kind of like when someone invented a tractor and people will say, oh, now we're not going to use shovels anymore, right? There's a difference here. And the difference is that creativity makes us happy. The process of being creative makes humans happy. It's the happiest emotion we have after love. Okay, love beats everything. But after love, the feeling we have when we have a really good idea is the second most amazing human feeling. So, we are not going to outsource that to a machine because that would make us less happy. The difference, like the shovel, we still buy shovels if we want to garden in our garden and we just want to feel good gardening. We use a shovel. It's when we don't want to stand and when we build a road, we don't want to stand with a shovel, and then we use the tractor instead. Right now, AI is taking over some creative work, and people say, oh, we're not going to write songs anymore. Of course we're going to write songs. If it makes us happy.
I'll give you an example. And my daughter and I mean, we play around with different tools and creative ideas. She's an extremely creative person. And what AI has enabled us to do is to quickly publish songs that are actually pretty good. So come up with a tune, you hum the tune into an app like Suno, it professionalizes it, you create some lyrics, and then you jump across to Grok and you can create a music video with a consistent character. You weave it all together and you've got a really nice song with a really nice music video, and it's something that's uniquely hers. It's her story, it's her rhythm, it's her expressing herself. And that would have taken, well, it would actually not have happened. She might have done a piano lesson in that afternoon, but instead we've published a song to the world. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's a whole lot of fun.
Yes, and I actually heard a musician on radio yesterday saying, oh, all the 40% of all the songs uploaded to Spotify are AI now. And they are, basically, he said they are fuckers. It's not music. But again, it's kind of like when someone invented a camera. I'm pretty sure a few painters said, oh, come on. All you have to do now is just press a button and you have an image. You don't understand color. You don't understand the brush strokes. Everything is gone. You're just pressing a button. There's no creativity. You're just pressing a button. But I'm pretty sure everyone will agree that there's a lot of creativity still in a good photograph. So we took away some aspect of the creative process, but not all of it. Photography is extremely creative. I interviewed a painter in Afghanistan, and she made her own paper from scratch by cutting down a tree, making her own paper. Then she made her own paint by grinding minerals and mixing it with oil. Then she made her own paint from cutting the hair of a cat. You know, it takes weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks before she could actually start painting. So are we going to go to the Western painters now and say, you're not real painters, you're not making your own brushes? Come on.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, talk about going back to basics. Who else sticks with you from your adventure? Who's a character that, when you think of your travels and your adventures, really sticks in your mind?
It's not maybe the best creativity example to share because it's a bit awkward, but I interviewed the children of sex workers in the slums of Mumbai. And I gave 10% of my revenue for my latest book goes to that organization because they basically take people who are at the lowest of the lowest on the social hierarchy rank, like children of sex workers, slums of India. And they take them away and they put them in and they are uneducated, and they created a school for them where they have iPads where they show TED Talks, and then they talk about the TED Talks that they've seen. It's amazing. I interviewed them about creativity, and on the same day, I interviewed the CEO of Tata Group, which is one of the largest companies in the world, and the woman in charge of the Indian space program, and these girls. And the girls made the biggest impact on me.
Really? Why is that?
Because, well, it took a while because they didn't speak good English, because they were teenagers. But I asked them, what can I learn about, we were just talking, what can I learn about creativity from you? And they said, you guys, you complain so much. Like you have this weird mindset. And they did this analogy of someone saying, a waiter, a wannabe actress in New York working as a waiter, looking at her life and saying, oh, I want to be an actor, but now I'm just a waiter, right? Instead, you should say, I have a job, I have a house, a roof over my head. I am in New York. I'm going to become an actress, but right now I am making money so I can pay for my acting lessons. And while I do that, I'm going to play that I am the best waiter in the world, so I get a lot of tip, right? So it's just a mindset shift. So they said sometimes when their mothers were working, they could not be at home because they usually slept, in one room and they couldn't be there. So they have to be outside in the night. And that was dangerous. So they couldn't sleep. So they had to stay up all night. So what did they do? Well, they lit a fire, got their friends together and sat around the fire and sang songs. They said, we're going to be awake, but we might as well sing songs while we do it. That approach. I asked her, what do you call this? And it's an awkward word because they're not English native speakers, but they called it sufferender, which meant you surrender to the situation, but you don't surrender to the suffering.
Wow. That is interesting. I mean, to even create a word that expresses that
exactly
situation.
And they told me a great story because they had a sponsor who sponsored an airline ticket so that some of these girls could go to Spain and do the Via Comia, whatever it's called, where you walk for 80 days, like the pilgrims. Yeah. They were sponsored. They got tickets to do that. But they didn't have any money, they didn't have enough money. So when they landed, the teacher said, we are going to do the walk, but we don't have enough. We only have like 300 euros left. So we're not going to make the whole walk. We'll walk as long as we can and then we go home. And the girl said, don't surrender to the situation, but don't surrender to the suffering. So they said, all right, fine. We'll walk as long as we can. And then every person they met on the walk, they said, hi, we're children of sex workers from the slums of Mumbai. We're here to try to discover a new way of life. And people just threw money at them, gave them food, gave them free housing. And they did, of course they did. Of course they made the whole walk.
Yeah. Wow. What an interesting phenomenon. I remember being in Bangladesh and meeting a young girl whose parents couldn't afford to keep her. And they said she had to become a child prostitute. Instead, she chose homelessness. And then she started surfing. She learned how to surf because someone left a surfboard on the beach. This is one of the central stories I tell in many of my talks, because you see this gratitude. She is just so grounded and grateful for the small things, and that often fuels her creativity. She ended up mentoring a small group of surfer girls in Bangladesh. It's incredible. So if creativity is natural, what gets in the way of creativity?
Well, most people, if I ask that question in a seminar, I've spoken to 1 million people. So I haven't asked 1 million people that question, but I've asked probably 100,000 people that question. The most common answer is fear. I think that's a big one. I don't necessarily think it's the biggest one. I would say it's very individual. For me, it's rules and regulations and admin kills my creativity more than anything else. Like if someone said, I heard there's a bank in Singapore, they have rules for how long the socks should be. Like they have a rule manual this thick. And so instead of just writing, you have to dress professionally. They're like, the socks cannot be more than 5 inches above your ankle or whatever the rule was. Now, if you have all these small, tiny rules that you need to follow, you're going to be constantly feeling that you might do something, you might break the rule here. So now you're trying, you could say that's fear if you want, but you're trying constantly to follow the rules. And if you're constantly trying to follow the rules, you can't break them. And creativity is to break rules, right? And more importantly, too many rules and too much admin and too much, unproductive admin work not only kills the creativity in the moment. If I do admin, my creativity is dead for the rest of the day. It lingers. It's a terrible disease. So I try to build my life around as little admin as possible and as little stress as possible.
Oh, Fredrik, we are kindred spirits. I find admin is soul destroying, and in fact, I used to say Monday is admin because I knew that day would be a write-off, and then at least it's done, and the rest of the week can be creative. It's interesting.
Oh, you're not advanced. Mondays, I do once a month.
No, nowadays, I'm fortunate enough that it's less. It's not just Mondays. Yeah, but I used to schedule Mondays, and then it made a huge difference rather than every day being assaulted by loads of little admin related tasks. And here's another thing. AI can really help with that. Imagine being a doctor. Physicians were burning out because of the admin burden. And now you can have a little device that sits in the room with you. It does all of the documentation. It fact checks some stuff. You can ask it afterwards for a review. You're free to be a healer. You're free to be creative again.
Yes, it's very, very true. And hopefully we do that. Because what we should then do is set aside more time to just sit and look at the ocean or take a walk or those things that actually do trigger creativity. But a bit of a warning though. Too much inspiration kills creativity, actually. Inspiration feeds creativity. Definitely, it's true. Inspiration is crucial for creativity, but too much kills it. Because inspiration literally means to breathe in. That's the meaning of the word. Inspire means to breathe in. So you're breathing in all these new ideas and it gives you energy, right? But if you constantly breathe in, you die. You also need to breathe out. And to create is to breathe out. You're creating something for the world. So I spend a lot of time traveling around the world, but I do that half of the year. And the other half I live here on my island. And this is where I do my thinking and my writing and my reflecting. So I balance the two. If I was traveling around the world nonstop, I wouldn't have ever time to write a book.
So you have to have seasons. There's a season for travel and busyness, and then time where you actually just regenerate and tune into the inspiration. I suppose it's true.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you again. But you look at some of these entrepreneurs that are constantly go to those conferences and entrepreneur conferences and TED Talks are like constantly doing that. They're never sitting down at the desk working, right? That's not being an entrepreneur. That's being an inspiration addict.
That's so true. That's so true. You're just always on the road seeking the next bit of novelty, but you never create space. How important do you think practices like mindfulness, whatever that means, everyone's got a different perspective, or meditation are for supporting creativity?
Oh, it's super. It is by far the most important thing you can do. I interviewed a sculptor in Hong Kong, Johnson Sang. He's an amazing sculptor. But I walked into his studio and I saw this crazy sculpture. He has like 600,000 followers on Instagram because he does this crazy sculptures, which is like a face with a canoe coming out of it with a rabbit on top, or crazy things. But then I walk around and I said, where do you get these ideas? And he said, I get them in my dreams or I meditate. Like they just come to me as a picture. But then some of the sculptures was like a picture of Donald Trump in a cage. And it's like, okay, that's nice. But I didn't go, wow. And he goes, yeah, sometimes I decide in, my conscious brain decides, I think I should do a piece on Donald Trump. But I could go around in his studio and I could point and say, this one came in a dream, this one came by your conscious mind, this one came in a dream, this one came in and I was right every single time. Because The one that came from the subconscious mind was just so creative on a different level. And he differentiated these two as divine ideas and mortal ideas. Mortal ideas come from your conscious brain. Divine ideas come from your subconscious brain. Mortal ideas are ideas that you come up with. Divine ideas are ideas that come to you. Someone sitting looking at a fire and seeing the fire going like that and go, oh, boom. Or a Nobel Prize winning a literature just walking in the street. Suddenly the idea, there's a beautiful description. She saw the idea that Gösta Berling's Saga, I think is the name. It's a Swedish Nobel Prize winner. She described how the idea came to her, and she said, the houses started to sway, the roads started to become a wave, all the trees waved at me, and suddenly that was how the idea, boom, the whole story just came to her. She didn't come up with that. It came to her. And what Johnson Tsang said was, divine ideas, they come to you. Someone else, Dan Rosengard, he also said, they're like fireflies. Like if you want to catch a firefly, you don't do this. If you want to catch a firefly, you just sit extremely still, be one with the universe, and they will land on you, or a hummingbird or something like that, right? If you get into that energy, the universe just comes to you, and the ideas just comes to you. But the divine ideas are always beautiful.
Do you think that the ideas exist beyond us? And this is a philosophical question, and I know it gets into people go in all directions. There's quantum fields of potential, and who knows? We actually don't know. But I know even Stephen King talked about his books. He's an archaeologist, and his job is to carefully uncover the idea that's already there. What are your thoughts?
I know it sounds woo-woo, but I've interviewed so many creative people, and it's just too many of these stories not to be true. So yeah, definitely. I think the best idea I ever had in my life came to me in a nightmare. I just, at 2 o'clock in Bangkok in a hotel, I just woke up sweaty. It's like, I just dreamt a terrible, scary, beautiful story. And I turned that into a novel, and it's called The Invisible. And it's published by Penguin. And when Penguin did the cover, they wanted it to say, The Invisible by Fredrik Haren. I said, no, I wanted to say The Invisible, no author. I don't need my name on this. It's not my idea. And if you need to put my name on it, just say The Invisible as delivered to Fredrik Haren. As told to Fredrik Haren. That's what I want. And you can read that and you can tell me you hate that book, and I couldn't care less because it's not my idea. I just wrote it.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And what are your thoughts on altered states of consciousness? I mean, we do have access to all kinds of tools, whether legal or not legal, depending on where you live. Do you think there can be benefits?
I think there can be benefits. I have never used any drugs. I have never smoked a cigarette. I have a mentality where I think I might very easily get addicted. So I just decided never to go down that path. I'm afraid where it would lead me. And I don't even drink coffee. And some people say, look, how do you manage in the mornings? And I go, well, look at people who are big coffee drinkers. They are dead in the morning. They need coffee just to become normal. I wake up, I'm fine. So it's kind of like that. If you get high on life and just the reality, I think you can get just as much inspiration from that. But it's about being in the mindset. Like I think a Buddhist monk just meditating is as high as you can get. And you don't need drugs for that. I'm not saying if you want to use drugs, but you don't need drugs to get to that state.
That makes sense. Yeah. And what about time in nature? I can see you're in an absolutely beautiful place. I find nature, going for walks along the beach where I live in New Zealand or up the local mountain, that is where the best ideas arrive or arise. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Definitely. I think I've probably asked 500,000 people, where do you have your best ideas? Because I ask in my talks. And there are common denominators. So the number one answer is in bed. So that's the subconscious brain talking to you. Second most common is shower, which is like Archimedes. There's something with water. The third most common is traveling, like on a plane or a bus. It's the motion and the rocking. The fourth most common is in nature, walking, exercising, and the fifth most common is in bars with friends. So that's a different answer. It's like 20% are like that, but the other ones is when you're not trying to be creative, when you're relaxed, when your brain activity goes down. And if you want to get really woo-woo, what's the common denominator here? It's dark like when you're sleeping. It's wet like when you're showering. It's bumping around as when you're on a train and you're alone, which is the common denominator for all of these. Where is that?
In the womb?
Exactly. And remember what creativity means? It means to give birth.
Stop. That's too good. That's a good connection. Wow, I love it.
And that's why you see me, this is my thinking studio. So I'm by myself because I'm on top of the roof of my house. So my kids know they can't go up here. So I'm by myself. I am in nature. I'm surrounded by a dome, which is the womb, and I have sea view 360 degrees. I always see the water. So I've tried to I've built my own, idea womb, we can call it.
Oh, I like it. I like it. That's fascinating. What about countries like Mongolia? People don't really talk about Mongolia, but what did you discover when you went there, for example?
Oh, it's a beautiful story. So I went there because I wanted to study creativity from a nomadic mindset, like people who lived like we all lived 20,000 years ago. They still live like that. So I lived for 11 days with a nomadic tribe, and I interviewed the head of the tribe. He's 80 years old, and I wasn't interviewing him about creativity. I was interviewing him about like just life, right? But then I got some lessons, and he said, you think nomad means a movement of the body. It doesn't. It means a movement of the mind. And he described that Westerners think nomad means that someone who always travels. He said, it doesn't mean that. The word actually means in search of greener pastures. That's the meaning of the word nomad. But it means in search of greener pastures means when you find the greener pasture, you stop traveling. So when you find the perfect place for your animals and for your family, you build your home there, you build a village with your tents, and then you live there. And you live there for long periods of time, weeks, months. But the difference is every morning when they wake up, they open the tent door, they look out, they look at their animals, and they say, this was the perfect place for us to live yesterday. But is it the perfect place to live today? And if it isn't, they just tear down the whole village and they move. And we don't do that. On that same, we don't wake up every morning and say, this life was perfect yesterday, but is it perfect today? And if it's not, what do I need to change?
That sounds amazing. The idea of the grass, that willingness to move despite discomfort, you have to do it as a way of life. Whereas we get so fixed and rigid in our thinking. It's kind of like buy a house and you're going to be there for the next 30 years. You'll be paying for it for the next 30 years or however long the mortgage is. Well, the nomadic life, I remember from being a digital nomad in the early 2000s, it taught me so much because you realize that when you get tired of a place, you can just pack your bags and move to the next one. And I have to say that was one of the most creative periods of my life. I wrote a book in the Himalayas just about surfing because I've missed it so much. And these ideas, I don't know, I've never felt as creative as when I was on the road.
Yes, but I think, again, we should also think, like, this is something we can learn from the nomads. Doesn't mean we have to become nomadic. There's an idea to be settled as well. So it's a little bit like the creativity, the confidence and the doubting. You need to find the sweet spot, right? So for example, in 2005, I left Sweden and I moved to China. Best decision of my life.
Really?
Because I discovered the world, right? But when I moved to China, I said to myself, I'm going to live here for the rest of my life. Because I wanted to make friends, I wanted to make connection, I wanted to put my roots down. Because if I just said I'm just going to be here for a while, you don't make friends, you don't connect with your culture. Yeah. So I said I'm going to live here for the rest of my life. But at the same time, I said to myself, but as soon as I don't like it here anymore, I'm going to move. And 3 years later, I moved to Singapore. Same thing, I'm going to live here for the rest of my life, but every day I'm going to wake up and I'm going to say, so you need to have the nomadic thinking and the settled thing, and you find a sweet spot between the two. Constant travel for the sake of travel is well, there's no roots there, right? So, and not even the nomads travel all the time.
Yeah, they set up camp. No, that's what I noticed too. I did very slow travel, and people thought I was crazy. They would say, how long are you planning to stay in this town in Kerala, like a small town on the coast of India? I'm not quite sure, but you make friends, as you say, and you actually get to connect with locals and become part of the community to some degree. And you're still an outsider, but it's a very different experience. You actually leave feeling like you've changed in some way as a result of being there. If people are interested in leveraging or building their creativity, where would you suggest that they start?
They should start with themselves. I interviewed a former minister in Bhutan, and he said, you Westerners think creativity is about expressing yourself, creating something, showing something to the world, making the world better. He said, all of that is just the end result. Creativity is really about understanding yourself. And it's a beautiful insight. And if you think about it, nothing truly like my best idea, my novel, has taught me more about life and what it means to be human and who I am than anything else I've done in my life. And if you do something and you don't learn something about yourself, was it really a creative process, or was it just you going through the motions, right? So start understanding yourself. Study yourself. Try to understand yourself. The more you do that, the more profound your creativity will become. And also, you will understand your own creative process. Mine and yours, it seems, involves a lot of travel and inspiration, right? But also, for me, in my case, introvert, I need to be by myself. Thus my dome and living on an island. But other people are they need people around them all the time to be creative. Like, so what is your own creative process? Do you need stress? Does stress kill your creativity? Do you need to be challenged? Do you get stressed when you get challenged? Like, what is your creative process? And most people think they know, but they don't know on a more profound level. So the more you study yourself, the more you understand yourself, the more you truly understand your own creative process. And and then adapt your life accordingly.
Anything else that you learned from your time in Bhutan?
There was another, it wasn't necessarily a Bhutanese example, but it was a Bhutanese fashion designer. And she called it's similar to the beer guy we started with in the beginning, but it's a slightly different twist. She called it fractaling, or we came up with the word fractaling, because she said that she was doing beautiful capes and dresses, right? But as a fashion designer, she said, I can't really do what I'm doing unless I understand the people who do the yarn. So she would go and visit the yarn makers. And then she said, okay, but the yarn comes from where? Oh, it comes from the sheep. So, okay, I need to go and meet the people who are doing this. So a fractal is like you see something and you go down and you see the same, and you can go down and down and down and you see the same pattern, right? The deeper you go, the deeper your understanding becomes. It's kind of like chefs who will go and meet the farmers who are farming the beef that he's cooking, right? And then maybe if you want to be extreme, you go and meet the guy who makes the equipment that kills the cows because you want to understand how they're being killed, right? Go deeper and deeper into your process. And the deeper you go, the more you understand the fundamental of what and you do that on all the aspects that is involved in what you're doing. Like if you're doing a podcast, go and interview the guy who do the podcast tools, go and interview the guy who builds the microphones. And now you have all these things are foundations in a pyramid that ends up with you creating on top. That's fractaling.
I love that idea of fractaling, like really getting to know everything about what you're doing.
Everything that what everyone else does before you, because you're just the end of a chain.
You're the end of a chain. I really love that idea. And you see it with real masters of their craft. I know a chef in Hawaii who does that. So if people are interested in exploring your books, you've written a number of books, including the Idea Book, which was included in the 100 Best Business Books of All Time. And your latest is The World of Creativity, launched just before Christmas last year with Wiley. Where would you advise people start if they're interested in connecting with you?
I guess LinkedIn, even though LinkedIn lately is just becoming AI slop and stolen meme videos. But there are a few of us who still do original content, so I'm one of those. So yeah, or just Google the Creativity Explorer. Hopefully I come up.
Excellent, excellent. I think that creativity is something that we will need more and more. If you think about young people, apparently there are less entry-level jobs, less intern jobs, because AI can do a lot of that kind of stuff. And so entrepreneurship is becoming more important than ever. So a final thought for those who stuck with us all the way to the end, and potentially some of the younger people in the audience.
Okay, the last etymology example, curiosity. Curiosity is the key to creativity, right? It's the common denominator for the 0.01% most creative is that they are more curious than the rest of us. Curiosity comes from the Latin word cura, which means to care, which means that which you care about, you will be curious about. So if you follow that logic, figure out what you care about. It could be horses. It could be world peace. I don't know what it is. It can be accounting. You like numbers, whatever it is. Figure out what you care about, and then do the fractaling on that. Go out and learn as much as you can from the many different. If you like football, go and don't just say I'm going to be a football player. Go and interview the people who work behind the scenes in football. Go and do your internship as a football referee. Go and talk to the people in the TV station. Find all the different aspects of football. Then find the second thing that you like. People are more than one interest. Let's say you like statistics and you like football. Now, go and figure out, ask ChatGPT, which job would be best for someone who likes statistics and football? Give me 10 different jobs. Now go and work for free at those 10 different jobs. Figure out which one you like. Combine the two things you care about the most. Find the sweet spot between where these two meet. I love humanity and I love creativity. That's why I travel around the world to meet humans, to understand creativity. That's my sweet spot.
Be the only one of you, in a way.
Be the only one in you by finding, and I call it the inner theme. Find your inner theme. The inner theme is a message that everyone needs to hear, but only you can deliver. So find that position because it has to be value also. It can't just be meaningless, right? The ikigai version of it, what you love to do and all of that. Find the sweet spot that someone is willing to pay for. And then be the best at that.
Thank you so much. I've really loved the stories. I've loved the etymology, and yeah, just getting to talk to you in your beautiful location over there. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you.